they arrive.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Neosha Franklin. I am the Director of Communications at the St. Louis Community Foundation, and I have on the call today with me is Emily Kaiser. She's also at the St. Louis Community Foundation. She's our Communications Associate, and you probably have heard from one of us, but we are your team for Give STL Day. So if you have questions specifically for Give Day, you can reach out to either one of us. But today we are really here to hear from Maryanne Dersch. She is awesome. She's been a friend of mine for years and always enjoy doing her presentations. As someone said in the chat, she's always got golden nuggets. So this is a part of our Give STL Day training material. But it's not just for Give Day. This is for your fundraising efforts throughout the year and any other types of campaigns and things that you're doing outside of the Giving Day. So without further ado, I'll let Maryanne go ahead and kick it off. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. What a great decision you made to take some time away and focus on growing your influence, which is something we all have in us. And I'm gonna teach you how to unlock it. What I want to start this presentation. I'm gonna go. Hold on, just 1 second. I want to start this presentation. First, I want to encourage you. We have about. Hi, Christy. There's so many awesome people. We have a bunch of people in the room. If you're comfortable with camera on, I'm great with that. If not, that's okay too. As people drop in, we're gonna keep adding them. And if you just joined us, let's say hello to everyone in the chat. Tell me who you are, where you're from. You don't have to tell me who you are. That's in the chat. Tell me who you're with and why you're here today. And I want to start a little bit different. Okay. I want to start this workshop a little bit differently. And I want you to just close out your windows, close out your phone, just turn it all off and put yourself fully present in this experience and just luxuriate in the next couple of hours. Is just like learning and expansion. When I teach influence, one of the things I teach is being present, very, very present in the moment. So you can listen, and we're going to practice listening today. Active listening, we're going to work on that because that's one of the keys, the secrets of influence. And in that spirit of just being really present and just enjoying this time and allowing yourself to be open to these experiences. And I just want you to just take a couple deep breaths with me and just really feel the breath coming through your body. Like really deep in and then out like you're blowing through a straw. We've all been through a crazy, crazy year, right? We've been through this crazy year of unexpected, like what felt like insurmountable challenges. And now it's spring again. And there's hope and expansion there, and the leaves are coming and we're feeling the new sense of possibility. And I just want you to breathe into that. You can close your eyes if you want and just breathe into the idea of the light at the end of the tunnel, the light that's growing brighter for all of us, and tapping into that energy as we work through this today. Okay. Does that feel good to start a meeting like that instead of just jumping in and getting going and really just feeling like feels so good right now, doesn't it? I was walking this morning and the daffodils are up and that expansion. I'm getting my shot today. I got an email from the city that said I could go get a shot. So I'm getting a shot today. And all of that energy and excitement, this is the perfect time to really tap into the natural abilities that you have in the season of spring, which is growth and expansion. So natural abilities you have of influence. All right, so I'm going to share my screen for just a second. I'm so excited. We have so many people here. I'm going to share my screen with you for just a little bit. How I work is that I go back and forth. I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to do a little talking. There's not a ton of content on these slides. You will get the slides, but there's not a ton of content. So don't worry about, just what I want you to do is relax into this, take a few notes if you want, but really be present, because the best way to learn is just being really present. All right, now, here's I always start my presentations with a promise. And the promise I'm going to give to you today is that you will understand what influence is, why you need it, and you'll have a few tools to leave with to help you start using it now. And that is my promise to you. And I want to tell you why I feel like this is so important right now. I talked about in that my little opening sort of my opening welcome. I talked about this of the spring and expansion. As we move through COVID, as we get physically safer, more and more, I feel like more and more of the damage of the last year is going to become apparent, right? Like I think we're in for a second wave as we adjust and shift. And really now, who is going to be there to pick up the pieces of this mess? Than us, the nonprofit world, right? And so my commitment is to help you be the best leader you can be, your organization be the best leaders it can be, so that you can get more done, because right now it's so critical. And in my work, I'll tell you more about me in a minute, but in my work, what I know for sure is that we can't do this alone. You can't do this alone. And your ability to influence people is key to your ability to get the things done that you need to get done, to achieve your mission, to get those good outcomes. So if you I just think about you right here in the middle, and you have the board above you, right? The board. And maybe for you, if any of this is for you, I would love for you to raise your hand, or raise your physical hand. You can raise your reaction hand or your physical hand and tell me if you have a board that somewhere along the way made it okay for the engagement flag to sort of fly at half mast. Does that ring true with anyone? Yes, like somewhere along the way, they were just like, yeah, whatever. And now we've got a pattern of engagement that's a cycle that's hard to break, right? This has now become part of the culture. And no matter what you do, you can't get them to just like you talk and you present and you're not getting engagement. All right. Then you have staff, the staff, like thinking about the staff below you, all the people under you. Now, you probably spend, and if this is you, raise your reaction hand or your hand. If this is you, you probably spend more time than you want in cleanup conversations, solving problems, managing disputes than you would like to. And you would love for your employees to become better leaders of themselves and more accountable to their work and to their behavior to each other. Then on the side of you, like think about here, we have the donors, right? Hard to find, harder to keep. And that constant stress of donor, like, where am I going to get them today? Where are they going to come from today? How am I going to find them? How am I going to keep them? How am I supposed to keep them and find them at the same time? This is crazy. And now I can't even throw fancy events, which is the biggest way we raise money, and that tension, right? And then over here, let's say over here on my right, I picture people like me, consultants. We come in with our plans and our process, or workshops like these, and you go into the workshops and you're like, God, this is a great idea. Or man, these people are going to come in and we're going to make change. And there's change for a while, but then it goes back to status quo. And it's okay if that's happened to you, please it's okay. Raise your hand. It's happened to all of us. I'd love if you've had a disappointing experience. I completely understand. And because it happens, and I'm going to explain why this happens today, why ideas don't stick, why change doesn't stick when you want it. So then you wind up, you get all excited and you make this investment and it doesn't stick. And you're like, oh my gosh. You feel like it's kind of depressing, and it's defeating, and you feel like you wasted your time and money. And also, what's wrong with us that we hire or invest in these great people and we still can't move the needle? We still can't like turn the yacht, right? So I get you. So between the board, the staff, the donors, and all the other people, and I'm not even talking about all the other people that you need to influence, that here's you in the middle, like, feeling that pull. oh my God, there's not enough time. There's not enough energy to deal with all the things I have to do. And so this is why influence is so important, because it is the one skill that if you could master this, we could solve for all of these things. And if you know me and you know my work, I spent 20 years working with organizations on messaging and marketing. And I was sort of reverse engineering influence into it. And I stopped doing that. And now influence has become my foundational program, because if I can teach you influence, marketing becomes easier, fundraising becomes easier, board relationships become easier. It all becomes easier. So that's why for me, this became so important. And it kind of became the foundation of my work, and really the biggest gift I have to give. So, all right. So that I'm just setting up kind of the experiences that we all can share. And I would love for you to just like keep that chat active for me. Um, um, you can share at any point in time. I would love for you to share some of these experiences of, your board and your staff and all the ways that you've been working on influence. To increase our influence, we need to increase our income to increase our impact. So influence drives the income, which drives the impact. If we don't have influence, it's hard to find new donors. It's hard to find people who are willing to invest in your organization. If you're not present, if you're not out there, if you're not, sharing your mission and your message. And when you have influence, then you can grow your income, and then you can create a bigger impact. So for me, this is the key to unlocking everything. This is probably the slide with the most words, so you can see, but influence is getting people you have no authority over to do what you want them to do. So the board, you don't have any authority over to them. The donors, you don't have authority over to them. Your volunteers, your community partners. And then the consultants are the people that you hire. You think you have authority over them, and then it's not really connecting. The staff, even the staff, you do have authority over them. And sometimes it's hard to get them to do what you want them to do. So when we have influence, we can easily ask for and receive what we want and need. And if you can easily ask for and receive what you want and need, can you imagine how much better those board relationships could be, your donor relationships? I mean, your board, when you have influence, you have a board that's engaged. You have a board that responds. You have a board that responds sometimes even before you ask them. You have those donors, they're loyal, they're with you. They understand how much you value them, and they value you. If you can't do the event in live, you do it virtual, they would show up to a dumpster fire if you held it, because that's how much they care. Those kind of donors. When you have influence, you have staff that responds to their needs, that are better leaders of themselves. And when they become better leaders of themselves, then that rains down on other people. So it's like, when I develop my influence and I develop my leadership as the head of an organization, I can, everyone else levels up around me. It just happens. It honestly just happens. There are people here who've taken my course. There are people here who are in my influence course right now, and they can tell you for sure that it just happens. When you show up differently, other people will show up differently. And the consultants and all those things, when you have influence, all those things that you invest in start to stick. The ideas start to stick. And I'm going to tell you why that is in a little bit. So all of these things can open up when you have influence. All right. Now, I'm going to go. This is sort of hold on. This is a favorite part of my, okay. So I'm going to tell you that influence is not selling, pitching, convincing, pushing, dominating. And in our world, we have been taught, if you want somebody to do what you want them to do, you have to get in there and tell them what to do. You got to sell it. You got to pitch it. You got to go in there and convince that donor. You got to close that deal. This is a very masculine energy of purpose driven. And that's okay sometimes. And also, what I know is that people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And influence, what I'm doing is allowing someone to make a decision for themselves. And by using my influence, I'm leading them to the decision I want them to make, but they're making that decision for themselves. So they're not going to have to sell. I don't have to sell. I don't have to pitch. I don't have to convince. I don't have to push. I don't have to dominate. I don't have to do any of those things. I'm going to show you what you do need to do in just a little bit. What is important is that I listen and I understand. People will buy from you, buy anything from you, an idea, a concept, an ask for a money. They will buy anything from you to the point they'll feel seen and heard. When we pitch and push, what happens to us? Like if you ever bought a car and you go into the room and the room is like small and it's hot, and they always have to go to the manager and come back. Does this resonate? Because if anybody wants me to go with them to buy a car, it's like they don't know what happens when I come in. Right? You get into the room and you're like feeling so pressure, and then they have to go talk to the manager and it takes like an hour and you're just sitting there. They're pushing. And what happens is when people push something on you or people tell you what to do, what's the first thing? You can't tell me what to do. I'm not. And when you pitch an idea, the person who's receiving the idea is now kind of poking holes in the idea. They're like looking for the flaws of the idea or the concept or whatever, right? They're looking like, oh, what's wrong with this? And so in influence, we don't have to pitch or push. All right. Because what in our brain, what happens in our brain is if somebody pushes an idea towards us, we get defensive. And we get defensive, we go back into the back part of our brain where our instinct is. And that's fight or flight, right? Fight or flight. I got to get out of this conversation because this person is going to ask me for money and I don't know what I'm going to say. You know, like, oh my God, how can I get it? And we go into fight or flight, like, or like, maybe I can just give them a little money and then they'll go away. Or we go into fight, which is, I don't know what this is. I'm poking holes in the scenario, whatever scenario it is. So we go into fight or flight. What we want in influence is to keep people up into their conscious brain where their rational thought lives. And when we do that, then they can see what we're saying. And also we're going to move them along in their thinking, but not by pushing, but by convincing. In influence, what we do is I want you to say yes, but it's going to be your idea to say yes to my idea because I'm going to make my idea fit your needs. Now, there's one thing I really want to emphasize in influence, that this is not about manipulation. It's not about gameplay. It's not about making something fit, like we're going to square peg, round hole this. It's within alignment and authenticity with who you truly are. So if I'm using influence, my natural influence to help, like I want my board to, participate in a training. And I go to the board president and say, oh, I have this training and I really want to do it. And they say, tell me about it. And then you start telling them about it. And now they're like, well, I'm not sure about this and I'm not sure about that. And there's a lot of objections and hole poking into your idea. Instead, in influence, I go and I say, tell me how you, like I'm talking to the board president, tell me how you feel like the board is functioning. Tell me what you'd love to see. And in this conversation, I'm listening, because I told you deep listening, I'm listening for what they're saying. And now I have a way to shape my idea and present my idea that meets the need of the person I'm talking to. So that they're like, so if the board president says, I'd love if board members got more involved in fundraising, or if they we had a more active committee structure, like whatever they want to say. And you said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that because I have this training and I feel like that would really help meet these needs. Now he's like, oh, well, tell me about that training. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is this making sense? I'd love some chat comments here. I assume everyone's loving it, so I'm going to keep going. But any questions that you have or any comments, put them in the chat if this is resonating with you. So this is the part of influence. Okay. Before I get really into it, what I want to do is we have a lot of time today. This is more workshop-y. We have a lot of time. So what I'd love to do is for you to just spend like 5 minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, thinking about and writing down who in your world you would most like to influence and why. How do you feel like things would change if you could influence this person or a group of people? It could just be one person, like a boss or a board president or a major donor, or it could be a group of people. um, you know, your legacy donor group, or like who are the people that you would most want to influence. And I want you to do that now, so that as I move through these examples and we work with this content, you can keep them in mind. So by the end of this, you have some real good direction on how you can approach these people. So I am going to put 4 minutes on my timer. And then I just want you to think about who you want to influence. And Emily, if you could put that question in the chat for me, who you want to influence and how your world would be better if you could. Also, it doesn't even have to be about work. You can like kids, spouse, friends, because this like the way I work is this is a whole new operating system, and it affects all aspects of your life for the better. Okay, we have about 2.5 minutes. About 1 more minute. We are done. I would love to get a quick couple of shares. Um, 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 all right. I would love for anyone, please. Okay, Christy, unmute.
Wow, this was amazing. Because when I went through how much better the world would be parts, just so much emerged directly related to this person who happens to also be a billionaire, but will not donate to this particular cause purposely. But this exercise may sway this person.
We'll work on that. And FYI, in full disclosure, Christy is currently in my Up Level Your Influence course, learning her influence, correct?
Yes, learning a lot.
Awesome. Okay. All right. And anyone else want to share? Oh, I'd love one more. Christine, go ahead.
Okay. So I saw in the chat that somebody said about family foundations in the next generation, and we have that, and that was mine down here is we have a family foundation that has been very generous with us. And they are switching to the next generation in their priorities, and we were informed that we are not part of that. So that would be one for us, for me.
Anyone else?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, Lynn. Okay, we're gonna do Lynn and then Lisa.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just, I'm sorry, I probably get on a little later visually, but right now I have to do this. So I would like to influence a group of actors in Hollywood. I do have a list of names, and I will also have some representation at the Oscars this year for Dred Scott. So I've always wanted that. When this opportunity came up, I took it to have that representation. But I definitely would like to involve a specific group of actors so that we could have a Dred Scott International Education and Reconciliation Center. I already see the building, but I need to get the building. So
yeah, so like you see you can see the building in your mind, right?
no,
like,
no,
you
ma'am.
have the building.
They're waiting for us to get it. They want us to have it, but we have to get that kind of money. So
gotcha. All right. And then Lisa, go ahead.
Hi, I'd really like to influence my board of directors. You mentioned earlier something about boards kind of falling into habits, and I really see a habit of disengagement. I'd love for our board to really represent our community. Our board is not at all diversified, but our community is. It's the community we serve. I also, I know that if we had an active board, we'd have more than 3 board members engaged.
I'm waving in my hands in agreement here. I'm sure I saw a lot of thumbs up. People can feel that. Yes. Like how much more you could do with an engaged board, and why, how did this happen? At what point did it become okay for this to happen, and also become okay for you to let this happen? I want to say a couple of things about the shares, and thank you for everyone who shared. It enriches our conversation. I'm not the only source of magic right here. So this really enriches the conversation that we want to have. And I want to say 2 things. One is that if when I talked about influence being an alignment, and so we want to influence someone, and it honestly may not be the right fit for them, and also, it's not about convincing or making something work when it's not really a fit. It's about aligning with people in an honest way and having those what I call crucial or meaningful conversations, so you can really understand what's going on and make a decision together about how to move forward. So I can hold space for, I want to influence this person. And also hold space for that it might not be the right fit for them. And either way is okay. And in our world that we're taught, like you got to get that outcome. And one of the things I teach in influence is when you let go of the outcome. So the less, and this is so counterintuitive, and I'm jumping ahead in content, so forgive me, but I'm just going to plant this seed. The less likely you are, sorry, the less likely, the less tied you are to the outcome, the more likely you are to get what you want, which sounds super crazy, but I'm going to go into that later. And also for the board, like Lisa's share, and because we can all relate to this, and I'm going to speak really openly for a minute, is that we have to say, okay, when did this become okay? At what point did I allow this to happen? Or that I let this go? Because when I show up differently, when I raise my standards, then people, I swear to you, this is true. When I raise my standards, when you raise your standards, the world will organize differently around you, right? It just will. So I'm going to go into a little bit of content now. Well, first I want to, tell you a little bit about and my story, because, and the reason I share this story, and I share this with almost every presentation, so if you've heard it before, it's like your favorite rerun, I apologize. But it's important for me to share this story because I want you to know that who I am and what I do is in true alignment with my gifts and exactly where I should be right now, and really my life's work. So this is a picture of my family, and I am not in this picture. This picture is probably taken about 1960, and I was born 6 years later. My mom and dad had 4 kids in 5 years, and 6 to almost 7 years later, I was born. And because this is St. Louis, you will understand we lived in St. Louis because my dad was a brand manager in advertising for Anheuser-Busch, and he was a brand manager for Michelob, and their tagline at the time was the unexpected pleasure. So I kind of grew up feeling left out and left behind. And like I called myself the family footnote. And this is a letter that I wrote to my mom and dad and my siblings who, because I was like, I don't know, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. And I had to go to bed and they all were eating pizza. My dad came home late. I was in bed. My mom wouldn't let me get out of bed to eat pizza. And I was very upset, as you can see from this letter, because it's not fair that you get pizza. And P.S. it's not funny because I knew they would laugh. And I'm upstairs suffering. I call this is my first appeal letter, my first case for giving. So, and I literally taped it to 2 pencils with Band-Aid tape, whatever, and a first aid tape, and shot it down the stairs. But your dear, sweet, lovely, pretty, dignified, kind, warm-hearted daughter, Maryanne. That is a lot of qualifiers before my name. And honestly, I did not get the pizza. And this letter is sweet. And it's also a little bit painful because that's how I felt growing up. I felt less than. And I compensated for this in 2 ways. One is I became a kind of an overachiever, because like, if everyone's here, I felt like I was here. So I had to do 100 things to be here just so I could play equal. And I know that resonates with some of you, right? And then other thing is I became very resistant to criticism, because again, if you feel like you're looked down here, right? Criticism it triggers those really feelings of guilt and shame inside of you. So I was I needed a lot of praise, and I was terrified of criticism. So anyway, I'm in my fast forward many, 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 many years, and I'm in my therapist's office, and I was telling her about how a friend had criticized me and how much that hurt. And she's like, well, praise and criticism are the same thing. And I was like, that's ridiculous, because one feels so good and one feels so bad. And she said, they're just other people's opinions of you. They're just other people's opinions. And a whole person doesn't need praise to feel good, and is not dependent and doesn't let criticism derail them. And in that moment, this is exactly how it happened. In that moment, 2 what I call divine downloads came through. One is, if I wanted to do the work I wanted to do in the world, I needed to be that whole person where I could where I could receive praise with grace without needing it and didn't let criticism derail me. I had to become that person. I had to feel my own worth and value. And then my second download was, oh my God, all my clients who are nonprofits are overly dependent on praise and terrified of criticism, because in the nonprofit world, we feel here, right? Like everyone is even, and then not, because we're but we're not. We're defined by what we aren't, not what we are, which is we don't make a profit. Who cares? That's the least interesting thing about us. And so in the Thanksgiving table of our economy, we get to sit at the kids' table because we don't make a profit, because our society values the worth of a business by the profit it makes. So then we're relegated to the kids' table, and our collective our self-esteem suffers, and we aren't rooted in our value. So individuals inside organizations don't understand the power of their value and their power. And our organizations as a whole don't see themselves as worthy of investment. And it came a point into my life where I realized I wasn't a mistake. I was a dang miracle. You know how many things had to come together to have a 39-year-old woman have her fifth child? And it was like the 60s. She drank 5 cups of coffee a day and smoked cigarettes. That's just what they did back then, right? Do you know how many things had a life? And so when and this is what I do, this became my life's work, is to help organizations understand their value so they can ask for and receive what they want and need. So this is how and then I wrote my book, Courageous Communication. I have this course called Up Level Your Influence, where we really we go deep into the principles I'm going to talk to you about now. We really work on shaping our influence. And I have a certification program for individuals and organizations to become certified in all of this. So that became my work. Now, before I'm gonna start going into some content, but before I do, I allow you permission to go back to your screens. I want you to go to this nonprofitleadershipguide.com, and I'm going to put the link in the chat as well, because this is my gift to you. This is my gift to you. I can even do the thing. This should be the direct link. Okay. This would be my gift to you to download this, because I have this great ebook. And it's called Stop Sitting Back and Start Making Change. It's a lot of little lessons around some of the things we're talking about, especially for board engagement. And this will be like a great little ebook you could share with your board. It's a quick read. But the other thing is, we're going to talk about deep listening today. And I have a difficult conversations guide, which I call Courageous Conversations. And this is a very step-by-step process. And in fact, Christy's in my course, and we're going to practice, and my class is meeting this afternoon, and we're going to practice having the role play, having these conversations. But this is the step-by-step guide. This is pulled directly from my course, and that is you. And then there's a listener mindset guide. So I go to nonprofitleadershipguide.com. This is for you. And so please grab that, because you're going to want it. And it's lots and lots of goodies. Okay. So let's, I'm going to talk about these 6 principles for now. And before I do that, I want to, before I get into that, I want to just stop my share for just a second. Is there what questions do you have for me, or what comments do you have for me about anything that I presented so far? And you can feel free to drop those in the chat as well. All right. Thoughts, questions, comments? All right. We good? We're good. All right. We're moving on. So number 1. Okay. Friends, first thing for influence is we have to influence ourselves. And that means 1 is raise your standards. Raise your standards. Raise your standards for what you will and will not tolerate in your world. because in my work, in the work that I do with individuals and organizations, we raise, if we want people to show up differently, we have to show up differently. We can't show up as the same old person and expect someone to respond differently. And I guarantee you, because it happens over and over and over again with the clients that I work with, they show up differently. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to you don't have to announce it. I'm showing up differently. I've raised my standards. You just decide, enough of this. I deserve better. Lisa deserves better. I take my power back. I deserve better. My organization deserves better. Board of directors, I take my power back. I raise my standards for what I will and will not tolerate in my life. That's it. When I raise my standards, the world organizes around me to meet those standards. And I really don't have to do anything other than decide that enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough of chasing the donors. Oh, can you send me that check? Oh yeah, I'll get it to you next week. Next week comes, got it. Enough of chasing staff around. Could you have that for me? Can you get that for me? Enough of this. I take my power back. And when you raise your standards, we raise the floor. And when we raise, and then our boundaries, the boundaries that we use to support those standards, then are our walls. And then when we raise our floor, we can raise our ceiling. And we raise our ceiling, then we can go anywhere we want, right? Then the opportunity and the potential opens up around us. And I'm speaking in these amazing big terms, but this is true story, real world stuff. And anybody here is on the call who's worked with me or taken my course, if you can say, yes, absolutely, that's happened. I showed up and my board responded. So the first thing is raising our standards. And then developing healthy boundaries to support those standards. And I could do a whole day thing on developing boundaries, but the thing I want you to know is that just remember this about boundaries. It's not what you're saying no to, it's what you're saying yes to. So it's not that you're saying no to, to answering emails at night. You're saying yes to spending time with your kids. It's not that you're saying no to the board that won't respond. You're saying yes to serving your clients more effectively. So it's not about, the boundaries aren't like, oh, I can't do that, or I won't have that. It's like, it's what am I saying yes to? What is the opportunity? Because when we focus on the outcome, what we want, instead of protecting us from what we don't want, we're more likely to get it. Whole psychology around that, but that's what you need to know about that. Okay, number 2 is cultivate your energy. So in the physics world, there's a principle of like attracts like. And some people call this, and there's been a lot of poo-poo around the woo-woo stuff of law of attraction and blah, blah, blah. And I get that. And also I know it works. And what you put out there is exactly what you're going to get back. True story, 100%, what you put out there is exactly what you're going to get back. And in my course and in the work I do with organizations, we work specifically to cultivate an energy-rich culture. An energy-rich culture means that things flow easily, and that and it's supportive. I had a call with Marcia from Food Outreach, who's here today, and she called Food Outreach the love bubble, right? That's an organization that's cultivating their energy. That, and so what you put out there is exactly what you're going to get back. So when you cultivate your energy, then you can, when you decide to put calm confidence out there, that's what you're going to get back. If you put in panic and scarcity and fear, that's what you're going to get back. And so let's think about this in your everyday life. What I want to think about is the times that you have met somebody and you were just like, that person's giving me a super weird vibe. Whoa. And almost to where your body's like this. Who are they? And so, or the opposite happens. You meet someone, you're like, oh, wow, who are they? I want to know them. Wow, they're, and you like, you kind of move towards them. Like, remember when we were in rooms together? That was so fun. But you go to like a big networking thing and you see somebody and you're like, oh, I want to know them. I don't know anything about them, but oh my gosh, I want to know them. Because there's just something about them and they're just, and they probably have people all around them and they're just attracting people and they have this really great energy about them. Our energy speaks louder than words. Okay. Our energy speaks louder than words. And this is from somebody who spent 20 years and wrote a book around how to craft your messages. Your energy. So if you're going into let's say you're meeting with a donor and your energies of desperation, like, I gotta get this gift. I really need, God, this event's coming up. I need these lead gifts, or I need these sponsors. Oh my God, I need this gift. I gotta get them to say yes. And that energy is like that low need. But you're saying things that are like, oh yeah, whatever you decide is okay. When our energy and our words don't match, that's what the BS detector goes off. And like, have you ever seen an athlete apologize, or a rock star, somebody, they've done something stupid and they apologize? And it's like, everyone's like, oh my God, they're totally not sorry. And it's because their energy does not match their words. So our energy speaks louder than words. And so if we aren't aligned and embodied in what we're doing, then it's going to go flat. And so sometimes we're like, I don't understand why, or why people are hesitating, or why we can't connect with people. And so cultivating that energy is so important. Like in COVID, when COVID first hit and people started to panic and like people were out in the stores and everyone was so tense and you could almost feel the tension in the air, right? Like you could, like, our bodies give off electromagnetic frequency. Our heart, right? Our heart is, they shock our heart because there's electricity and there's an electrical current running through our heart. And in those waves of, there's radio waves and all these waves that are between us that make the microwave work and our phone work and the satellites, and our bodies emit energetic waves. And these frequencies are colliding with each other. And I know you're like, what the heck is she talking about? But this is science. This isn't me. And when we emit these frequencies, and and our heart, especially because it's stimulated electrically, emits frequency. And so people can feel that. And subconsciously their brains are like, I don't know what this person is, because our brains, most of our brains are our subconscious and sitting right back here, and or in our subconscious, and like, I don't know why. And but your body's like, no, or yes. So let me just show you this chart. I really love this chart because it outlines kind of like how you can do this a little bit. So this is about presence, leadership presence. Again, like meets like. What you put out there is what you're going to get back. I was working with an organization last summer that had a crisis, communication crisis, and they brought me in to help have some what I would call crucial conversations around the situation with the staff. And the development person, who I really like and was doing the best job she could, was so overwhelmed because all she had done, I'm going to stop this for just a second. All she had done for like the last month was deal with this crisis. And she's like, Maryanne, oh my God, I have this fundraising coming up. I have it, like, I'm so behind on my regular job because all I'm doing is dealing with this crisis. And so what I worked with her on was really tapping into feeling safe and supported, and tapping into calm confidence, because she had a team under her. And I said, if you bring that angst, if you bring that stress to them, that doubt, that's what you're going to get back. If we can tap into some feelings of confidence and calm, and when you bring that to the team, that's what you're going to get back, because they'll pick up, and they'll pick up on whatever you're giving out. And kids are super good at this, right? Like, kids are super hyper intuitive. Like my son's 17, or almost 17, but he's super intuitive. and he can read anyone like a book. But, but kids pick up on this, right? Like they like animals. There's people who like the dog does a wide circle around somebody, like, so these are base subconscious things that are affecting how we behave without us often being aware of it. And so what we were able to do with my client was to help her cultivate those so that she could lead that team with confidence, and so that they could get the work done. And one of the things I said to her is, I promise you there's time for everything, and that the things that are most important to you will get done. And when we work in panic, we're getting panic back. There's a law that I talk about all the time. It's called Parkinson's law. This isn't me. This is physics. Work takes as long as work takes. So if you got an hour, it takes an hour. If you got a week, it takes a week. And when I'm feeling really busy and I'm about to flip into that scarcity of time, I think Parkinson's law, like work takes what it's going to take. If I give myself an hour for that project, I'll have an hour. If I give myself a week, I'll have a week, and I will get it done. So just tapping into like those tricks like that can really help. So let me go back to this real quick. We're gonna like leveraged. So leveraged is, let me start at the bottom here. These are ways of presence, your states of presence, leadership states, and how you can present yourself. So the lowest is oblivious. Amanda, we see a lot of this during COVID. You're completely unaware of your state and the impact it's having on others. You have no idea what your state is, and you could care less what it's doing to anybody else. Right? You're just, could you say that thing about time one more time? Oh, please. Yeah. Freddie, it's called Parkinson's law. And it says that work takes as long as work takes. And however much time you have is how much time it'll take. So if you have 2 weeks to do the project, it'll take 2 weeks. If you have 20 minutes, it'll take 20 minutes. Work takes as long as work takes. And I use this principle like in money. So if I have $100 to spend, I'll spend 100. If I have 200, I'll spend 200. And I always go back to Parkinson's law, which means there is enough time, there's enough money, there's enough. But that's a theory called Parkinson's law. Work takes as long as you give it to take. You bet. All right. So oblivious is you're completely unaware of your state and the impact it's having on others. Clueless, right? I'm sure you see people like that all the time. Powerless is you're aware of your state, but feel unable to affect it. So I know what I'm doing, but I don't feel like I could change it. This is where a lot of folks live. And let's think about like a lot of times and the people that you serve, if they're in crisis, or if they have struggle in their lives, they feel powerless, right? They're aware of their state, but they just don't, there's nothing I can do about it. This is who I am. I'm stuck. So efficient is you develop the capacity to choose and authentically alter your state. So I can choose at any time and authentically alter my state. I'm not faking it. So in my client, we worked to get her to a place where she was authentically altering her state. Not like secretly panic, but trying to be outwardly calm, because I told you that doesn't work. So efficient is I'm having like, oh my God, I'm in this meeting and it's like super complicated, and now I got to go meet with somebody. And now I'm bringing all this tension from this meeting into this meeting with this other person without even really being conscious of it. Over the summer, I did a speaking engagement out in St. Charles, and it was in person. And I was okay with the setup. I was a little nervous, but I was late because apparently I forgot how to go places, right? And I mean, in the COVID panic, I was like, oh my God, I forgot how to go places. All right. So I was a little late, and I'm driving out there, and I pull up in the parking lot, and I grab my stuff, and I'm about to walk in the door. Before I walked in the door, I remembered I have the capability to choose and authentically alter my state. And even though I was running late, I stood outside for about 30 seconds and I got into service. I left the whatever was all the panic in the car, and I just took a couple of deep breaths, and I'm like, I'm here to serve, and and give them gifts and receive their gifts. And I just put myself in that for 30 seconds. It took me 30 seconds, and then I opened the door. So I chose to authentically alter my state. When I started this workshop with you, I said, let's luxuriate in this time together. Let's just relax into it. Was encouraging you to choose and authentically alter your state with me, like encouraging that. So effective is I'm able to exist effectively in all states and scenarios. So you all are going to do what you're going to do, and I'm going to hold my energy. I'm going to hold my presence. And leveraged is your presence enables others to move through these stages. So when I can leverage my presence, when I can leverage my energy, now I'm raising the vibe of everyone around me. Like and this is like, I see this a lot in the work I do. When you up level, everyone else just comes with you. They don't even know what's going on. I can tell you in my home, this has happened. The more I'm conscious of the energy I put out, the better everyone in my house functions. Even though my husband will tell you all this is like blah, 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 because he's a scientist. He's like, feelings and energy. But it's like, he's totally benefiting from it. And that's fine because I'm influential. He doesn't need to know why but he knows he's benefiting from it. So when our presence enables others, we are actually bringing others along with us. And that's a powerful leader. And that is an influencer. So when I can influence everyone around me, so I'm feeling confident and calm and capable and ready and open. And then all of a sudden people around me are too. Okay. I know this is a workshop. I'm talking a lot. So I would love for anyone who you can put some comments in the chat and I'll read them. And also, what thoughts do you have around this? What questions do you have around these first two? Maryanne, this is ridiculous. Your rainbows and unicorns. I love it. Whatever you want to say is totally okay.
Maryanne?
Yes, Lynn.
Okay, I'm the kid that sits in the front row.
I love it.
I wanted to let you know that I appreciate the breakdown of those levels, because I think everybody can see themselves there, and hopefully most of us will see ourselves toward the top. But I think what'll be great is when we can share this with our board and volunteers so that they can get a perspective on where they are. Everybody wants to do better, whether they know it or not. Some people are lazy and some people just want to do enough to get by. But I think that breakdown that you just gave us will be very helpful to share with my people, so they can see, where are you? I'm just going to ask them, where are you on this list?
and you know what? We can flow up and down. All right. Like my son got really mad at me the other day because we were in Costco and like the cashier said something to me and it was a little flippant and I got flippant back. Like, I'm not perfect. Okay. I can cook my steak wrong and it's, but I don't live there. Right. Like I got, I was like, I was sort of purposefully a little bit terse. I want to say, I'm like even embarrassed saying this to you, but I don't live there. Right. Like every once, like you're going to drop down because we're human beings, but it's like, where can I really consciously cultivate who I am and where I want to go? And I love that you can see how expansive this is. And also that just being empathetic, that some people just are oblivious. It's just who they are. It's where they're at. Instead of wanting, like, because part of influence is meeting people where they're at. And I think we expect people to be like, oh, here's an opportunity. Let's completely change your thinking and your energy. And like, well, why aren't you taking this opportunity? They're not, I don't, like lazy is for me is it's more like they're just oblivious. Does that make sense?
But they don't know better. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's
oblivious. Right.
That's what I'm saying about oblivious. Right. Because if like, and I also believe that everyone's doing their best. That's part of the 4 agreements. Everyone's doing their best. And that can change from day to day.
That, right?
Yeah. Everyone, like that board that's flying in half mast, that's their best, but our best can change. So, and so how can I help? How can I support them in giving more? It's hard to think about what energy you bring into a virtual space. It can be such a harder reach. Maggie, that is a great thing. And when COVID first hit, I was coaching this group of like 28 nonprofits in Chicago, and I had this whole thing planned for them. And that, of course, that all, blew up and went away. And we started dealing with the COVID thing. And one of the development people said, I'm really nervous because I wine and dine people and I won't be able to do that anymore. And I said, I feel like your magic can show up in a lot of places. Your magic is not limited to, and also I feel like it's harder to think about energy you're bringing in a virtual space, and yet you are, right? It translates. Like this, I did this Zoom happy hour and it was nothing but happy. And as soon as I pushed the, in button, I wanted to push the out button because there was like, wah, wah. I'm like, oh my God, like I could feel it. Like just no one said anything. So being conscious of that, it does transmit. And like even when people are on Zoom and and they're like sitting back like this, or like sitting like men do this a lot. Like they have the laptop on the lap and there's like chins and, because like when you're sitting back, it's like you're pulling your energy back. But when you sit up and forward, that's already showing engagement. So just being conscious of how you're sitting and how you're, in a Zoom, because it all translates.
Now everybody's going to sit forward right now.
I know everyone. I'm going to say, does everyone just adjust a little bit in their chairs? Like, is she looking at me? So like I said, what you put out there is exactly what you get back. So I did a 3-day workshop on Zoom on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And there was one of the participants, and the whole time she was like this, like sit like this. And guess who had the hardest time engaging with the content? Guess who put up the most barriers to everything that we were teaching? And I read it from the beginning, right? I read it right away. As I could feel that she was like guarding herself. Okay, so any other comments or questions? One of the tricks of influence is how you speak things. So if I say, do you have any questions for me? No, I say, what questions do you have? So I'm going to assume that you have questions. So what questions do you have for me? What thoughts do you have for me? Anyone else want to say anything? Or you can drop something in the chat and I can work with it from there. Okay, I really appreciate these levels too, and knowing them are helpful to understanding ourselves and others, which I think allow us to know how to better deal with ourselves and our relationships. Yes, 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 yes. I want to tell you the biggest lesson that you can learn today is if you want people to show up differently, you show up differently first. You influence yourself first, and then you influence others. And in my work, we work on self, others, and then tools. So like we look at ourselves, how can we influence ourselves, then our relationship to others. We want things to change outside of us, right? We don't want to change. We want everyone else to do better. It's a lot easier that way, isn't it? Wouldn't that be good if everyone else could just up level their own stuff and then not have to worry about it? Okay. So in influence and unlocking your influence, here is something. And this is like, all right. So just hang with me because this is juicy stuff. The more invested you are in the outcome, the less likely you'll see the result you want. All right. What in the world did I just say? The more invested you are in the outcome, the less likely you will see the result you want. Okay. Because what are we taught? What are we taught in our society? You got to hustle. You got to close. Always be closing, always be closing. You got to hustle. You got to get that guy. Go. And this causes tremendous stress and incredible burnout, especially with my development people. Can I get a hand raise? Yes, because there's like, gotta close that guy. Gotta get it. And then you get that gift and it's like, no celebration. No, just next gift. There's no like inhale. It's all go. Right? So in that go, close it, get it. That's where the burnout comes from. There's no like season of rest because the money's going to pass us by. So we have to get out there. Okay. I'm going to let me just go back for a second, because I was about to get on a little TED talk there and I'm going to pull myself back. Let me see what Lindsay has to say. My organization hosts events, and when we moved to Zoom gatherings due to COVID, we were worried about how that we would translate, but we've learned over time that the magic comes in showing up. It's true. It is true. Thank you, Lindsay. It is true. And that your magic can show up in a lot of different ways. It can show up on the phone. It can show up on Zoom. It can show up in person. Is it a little bit harder to read the energy? Yes. And also you can do it. All right. Okay. So when you release the outcome, so there's two things. I'm going to teach you a principle called equanimity. And in our world, we struggle with equanimity because we want to decide. Equanimity means I can hold two different things together and honor both of them. And in our world, we don't like equanimity. I call it the Ellen DeGeneres paradox. This is my own thing I made up, because for many months there, we were consumed. Is Ellen nice or is she mean? This person says she's nice. This person says she's mean, so she must be mean. No, she must be nice. Maybe she's a damn human being, right? And she gets to be all of those things. And so I can hold space that Ellen is mean and Ellen is nice. So in the Ellen DeGeneres paradox of equanimity, I can hold space for, I'm going to work really hard to get something and also be okay with whatever happens. And because like whatever outcome. So I'm going to work really hard to get as many people into this training as possible. I'm going to work really hard because I want you all to connect with me after this. If anybody read my email this morning, you saw a little story about that. And also I'm okay with whatever happens. And in that, so, and this is like, what, how can I do both those things? Because you know what, you're okay. I'm okay. If that donor gives, everything's okay. You're already okay. You're okay. And when I cultivate that feeling of whatever happens, I'm okay, then I can go in with open. Because what happens is if you go into like a meeting with the board or president or the board, or I got to get them to do this. I got to get this, or I got to get this sponsor. Two things happen. First of all, immediately that person senses the energy and the desperation and they start to repel. Whether they say it or not, there's something inside of them that's like not bought in because they feel like they're being sold. We talked about that earlier. The second thing that's happening is that if you're saying, I'm gonna get $5,000 from this person, what you're doing is closing yourself up to all of the opportunities around you. So if I was truly open to whatever, then maybe there's more there that I would never even have asked for or thought about because I wasn't open to the possibility. So it's like being present. So when I'm at the end of this call, ask any of you who wants to book a time with me, and whatever happens and that happens, like, I'm okay. Like sometimes people meet with me and I'm like, why am I in this meeting? And then the best stuff happens because I have no agenda. I'm just totally open. Like, who are this person? And then we wind up like doing something really cool together. And then other times that I've gone, I'm like, I really want this to happen. I really got to get this. And it just bombs. It's horrible. And you know what I mean? And I don't feel the flow because I'm all invested in the outcome. And I'm telling you, this is a concept we're going to work on. This is like, because we're so conditioned to, you got to get it close. And also like, it's not just you, it's the board, it's the whole culture of wanting to close and control the outcome. And what we've learned from the last year is the only thing that there's certain is we have no control, right? And we get really focused on the how are we going to do it? How, and like manipulating the numbers and the people and it never really works out that way. It feels so chaotic or irresponsible to like not really think about the how, or to just come in with no expectations. And yet, if you look at super successful people, that's exactly what they do. And if you meet people who raise a ton of money, they're like completely open to the opportunity. And guess what? It just flows to them. They're not trying to manufacture or manipulate. They're just open and authentic, and the money flows to them. So I don't know if you mentioned, I have a podcast called The Influential Nonprofit, and Laura Kozak is somebody that I interviewed, and she's exceptional at this, and she's raised a ton of money. So you could check that out. I practice this with meditation. You have the equanimity. Freddie says, and I do too, like whatever happens, we're going to be okay. So that's a big concept, right? And yet the more influential, the less likely you are, the more likely to happen, the more influential you're going to be. Okay. Woo, this is a ride, y'all. All right. Let me do this thing here. Okay, we're going to listen. So the biggest skill, I would say, of influence is deep listening. And when I say deep listening, what I mean is listening in a way where you don't have to worry about what you're going to say next or what's going to happen next. All you're doing is being fully present on the person in front of you. I'm going to stop my share. What I wanted to do was put you in breakout rooms of 2, but I'm worried that the folks that need the interpreters, I don't know how to put the interpreters in their rooms. So if somebody could help, because what I want to do is like have you pair up and do a list and do a listening exercise.
I can put the interpreters in the rooms.
Okay.
It'll just give me a minute, please.
Okay. All right. So, Emily, what I want to do is put people in pairs, just like, hello, if everyone's off camera, what? Here we go. I want to put you in pairs, and I want you to do some listening to each other. All right. So what we're going to do is, and we're going to practice deep listening. And by deep listening, you don't have to, like, I want you to really just focus on what that person is saying. All right. And when that person is done speaking, then you're going to say, so what I heard is, and say that back to them. So what I heard is, okay. So, and so what you can, let's see, you can each have a minute or so to just share a story. And I want the story to be, what is the biggest challenge you have in your organization, in your work right now? I just want you to say, tell them, like, what's the biggest challenge you have with your work? And the receiver's going to ask, or the listener's going to ask the question, and the speaker is going to answer the question. And then the listener is going to say, so what I hear is, and give it back to you. And then the speaker's going to be like, yeah, you got it. But you don't have to worry. But what I want you to do as you're listening, don't worry about what you're going to say. Don't just like be completely present. And if your brain starts to go, okay, I'm here, like, don't worry about it. Like, you'll figure it out. Because here's the thing, when we're in conversation with each other, this is what happens. So Lisa and I are talking, like, and Lisa and I'm like, and I'm listening to Lisa, but really I'm waiting for her to stop talking so I can say what I want to say. Right. Because I have the laundry list of things I want to share. Right. And I'm like, and so I'm not really listening to Lisa. I'm thinking about what I want to say back. And then, so she's not listening to me. She's really, I mean, she is, but she's thinking about, okay, here's how I want to, oh my God, like, how am I going to respond to that? Or what am I going to say? And really all we can do is, like I said, now, what did I tell you? That people will buy to the point they'll feel seen and heard. So I'm teaching you how to see people, how to hear them. Okay. So, and that deep, so when you can stop your brain and just be fully present on what somebody's saying without worrying about what you're going to say next, because I promise you the words will come. So when you're just not worried about, and Chrissy, you're getting such a preview of our exercise this evening. Chrissy's in my class. She's getting like extra credit doing this today. She's gonna knock this one out of the park today.
I'm taking copious notes.
You're gonna be like, I'm getting an A in listening in class today. You know, you little overachiever, you. So, and our brains are spinning, so we're not really fully present. And when I can be fully present, I can really hear you. So I'm going to give you a little example of this just happened in my life. Just like, okay, so I'm on this trivia team, and my trivia teammate asked me about my oldest daughter. So my kids are adopted. My oldest daughter is transgender. So I'm raising a Black trans daughter. And people ask me questions about her all the time, which is totally fine. But my friend who is gay, he said, I've been, I'm in these forums and things online, and I'm asking questions and I get shot down for asking questions. And he said, I'm just genuinely curious. And he said to me, because when I came out, I spent a lot of time like talking with people and having coffee with people and just like really answering any questions that they had and sharing my experience. And now like I go to these forums and I get shot down. And so I said, wow, because what I'm hearing is when you came out, you spent a lot of time with people, making sure they understood and really educating them. And that was really important to you. And now you're coming within that same spirit of curiosity and acceptance, and you feel like you're getting shut down. And he's like, yeah, right. Because like when you feel seen, God, it feels so good. It feels so good. Because one of the things that we do is we give advice and not wisdom. Advice like, oh my God, dang it, Lindsay, I'm so sad today. What do you got to be sad about? Or, Lindsay, I'm so sad today. Okay. Well, you know what I do when I'm sad? I go for a run. Okay. No, tell me why you're sad. What's going on? Whoa. All right. Empathy extends a conversation. Look, what did I do to my hair, you guys? Empathy and wisdom extend a conversation. Advice and sympathy shut it down. So you don't have to solve anyone's problem. Because we're all capable of solving our own problems. All we have to do is listen. Okay. So in that spirit, what I'm going to do is, Emily, do you want to do the breakouts? Just put everybody in pairs.
Yeah, it's breakouts of 2 or 3. That's the lowest it lets me go. But
That's fine.
I'm not seeing the name of the participant who usually needs the interpreters. So if you do, please let me know in the chat so I can put an interpreter in a room with you.
That's perfect.
And
So,
if not, then they shouldn't have to join rooms. But I just want to be sure.
okay, so if you got 3 people in there, just take some turns, take a turn. And each one of you talk about the biggest challenge that you're facing in your work, and other person, all they have to do is listen and then say, so what I heard is, and then we're going to see how that feels.
Okay. And
Is
if you're in a room with someone who doesn't have audio or video, please let me know. Most of them are 3, so everyone should be okay.
All right. Okay. Hopefully you have at least audio. Hi, Patty. Hi, Patty Christian. Oh my gosh. All right, you guys, is this fun? Is this a blast? I freaking love this stuff. This is so cool. All right. So I'm going to give you, let's say if you're in groups of 3, let's just do let's do 8 minutes. Sometimes you like want to like try to talk just to like oh, like I'm gonna, and in the radio DJ it's called nailing the post, where they talk right up until the song starts. Right. But then they just finish it just at the perfect time and then the lyrics start.
Right.
That's called nailing the post. Okay. Okay. Let's get a quick couple shares, just some what I call popcorn shares real quick. Just tell me what that was like, how that went.
I can speak.
Yes.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. I'm Marcia with Food Outreach. I enjoyed the process. I found that I think I got the kind of the nugget of what my member was saying, but it was a little hard for me to get all the details in.
Okay.
To remember all the details.
Yeah, and you don't have to remember all the details.
Okay.
Like you don't have to say it back exactly. What you want to say is like you just want them to feel heard.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is, wow, that really hurt, or
Yeah.
that's a huge struggle for you. Yeah. Does that know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to like say it exactly back.
Yeah, and it felt really nice. I did feel heard.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. All right. And it feels good, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Feels good just to be what I call witnessing.
Right.
Uh-huh. Thank you, Marcia.
You're welcome.
Marcia's going to take my class. I'm ready. I'm ready.
You bet.
Okay. Who else? Quick share. Come on.
I
I'd like to quickly share. I think we have an easier time listening when it's screen to screen
Yeah.
versus meeting and people walking by. And you can really zone in on a person and what they're saying when it's just monitor to monitor.
Yes.
And still it's personal.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, it can be hard with all the distractions rolling by. So one of the women in my class, she works in a very small office, and there's people coming in and out of her office all the time, and she was having a hard time focusing. So she put up a shower curtain, like this really pretty shower curtain, and she just and she said it hung there for 2 weeks before she had the courage to just, rip it across. And now she's got the shower curtain behind her. She set this visual boundary, but so people come in and then she can really be present with them. They're not distracting. And also she gets her time. Does that make sense? So it's yeah. All right. It made me think of that. One more quick share. How did that feel? Anybody felt frustrated or unsure?
I think it helped narrow what the problem was, because as you mentioned, the words will come. So waiting to go into the chat room, I was thinking of multiple things that it could have been. So I found it interesting, the one that I chose to share.
The one that just came out. Okay. And so the point of the exercise is you don't have to to be fully present. Your stories, right? Your stories, have what, if you want to influence someone, then they need to feel seen and heard. When they feel seen and heard, then you relax. Could you feel yourself relaxing when someone said, so what I heard was this? You're like, yeah. Right. And then when you relax, your brain relaxes, your body relaxes, there's trust. And when there's trust, then you're going to be open. All right. So someone who took my class a couple of years ago, or a couple of months ago, years anyway, COVID time, days or months or whatever. She was the executive director of an organization, and her board president was the founder. So board president was the ED. She came in as ED, and then the founder went to the board president, and they had a difficult relationship because of trust. It's like you're giving your baby to the nanny to raise, when you're in there all the time. And we use this technique, and because the board president was constantly challenging and questioning her decisions, and it was making her so mad. And so we tried this technique. I said, listen, empathize, and when they feel seen and heard, they will trust you. And that's exactly what she did. She had a conversation. Tell me what's going on. They shared, and she said, it must be so hard for you to turn this over to me, because I know this is your baby, and I understand how hard it is to not be day-to-day decision making. And the board president was like, and she said, this was the greatest conversation, and I had an aha moment, and their relationship changed forever for the better. So this technique works. All right. Because and so instead of pitching your idea or pitching, or trying to sell, the deep listening, people feel seen and heard, they relax. Then you say what you want to say, and not in a gotcha way, but in a way it's like, thank you for sharing that. Say okay, I'm going to tell you this, and then we're going to keep getting into content. I was on Facebook, and I'm in, these nonprofit groups. I'm sure you are too. And somebody's talking about, my board won't fundraise, blah, blah, blah. And so the board, and there's almost 300 comments about why the board won't fundraise. You should kick them off and get board members that will. You should give them a script. What I found is when I have a meeting and blah, blah, blah. No one ever said, have you asked them where their hesitation is? Have you talked to them about I know you want to do great. And what I would love to share I would love for you to tell me how I can support you more in this. What can I do to support you? and then whatever they say says, so what I'm hearing is, right, and validate them, and then you come in, okay, so what I'd like to try is this. And then because once they feel seen and heard, they're going to be open to whatever you have to say, more open than if you would just come in and start talking. And when I worked at 501 Creative for 16 years, and when we would bid for jobs, and people say, well, come in and give us a pitch. And we're like, yeah, that's not how we work. That's not what we do. But we're happy to, answer questions or whatever. So despite that, I'm here speaking in front of you for 2 hours, but the less you speak, the more likely you are to have influence. So think of the conversation as like 70-30. The less you speak, the more likely you are to have influence. So just hold your stories, right? Because what you want to do is witness people and really be present to what they're saying. Okay, that's the that's the listening part. So I'm going to recap real quick. We're going to raise our standards with her and create supportive boundaries. We're going to cultivate our energy, right? And then we're going to release the outcome. So those are the 3 things that we do internally. This is us and our mental state. Then listening, now this is where rubber meets the road. We're using these to interact with people. And now we're going to empathize and validate. So I've already kind of covered this, but I want to just share a couple of things. People will buy to the level they feel seen and heard. Okay. So empathy and validation, and meaningful empathy and validation. The thing about validation is, and we just did this in my class the other day, empathy creates empathy extends a conversation, sympathy crushes it. All right, I gotta grab some notes here real quick. Oh, hold on. Have empathy. Okay. So empathy extends a conversation. And sympathy is like judgment. It's from across the room. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Empathy is like, wow. Brene Brown talks about empathy as like, if I fell into a black hole and somebody's standing over the hole saying, well, it's not that deep. It's not that dark, or they say, but you know what? Let me go down in the hole with you. Cause I've been there and I know how it feels. And let me go into the hole with you. Sympathy is pity. And then, so we want to move away from sympathy and approval and towards empathy and validation. Here's the thing about validation. This is the big lesson of this section. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to like it. I don't have to support it. All I have to do is validate it. So I understand why, I understand why that's important to you. I understand why you think that way. I don't have to think that way. I don't have to agree with it. All I have to do is validate it. Never start a statement with at least. Like, oh my God, I lost my job. Well, at least you had a job. And because oh my God, oh my God, or it could be worse. Brene Brown also has a concept called comparative suffering. And this was huge in COVID. I would meet nonprofit leaders and I'm like, so how are you doing? How are you holding up? Well, we're kind of doing okay. We're doing really great. They didn't want to say they were doing well because other people are struggling. So I can hold space, equanimity, that I'm doing well and other people are struggling. And both those that COVID is a horrible thing. And also there's a lot of beautiful things that happened in our world because of COVID, right? So I can hold space for both those things. So but if you watch television and movies, we're horrible at empathy and validation. Especially with children, we say, oh, Mom, I'm so scared. You don't have to be scared. Don't be scared. I'm so upset. God, I'm so upset. My boss, the board president told me I have to do this and this and this, and I'm so upset. That doesn't sound that bad. Okay, that's bam, you just like, that's undercuts your influence. But when you say, wow, it sounds like, yeah, this is really sounds pretty crazy. So one of the women in my course, she was she was supposed to attend a speech. She was supposed to be a speaker at this big event. Well, the event coordinator forgot to tell her about the event until that day. And the event coordinator's like, how come you never answered my emails? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know, it like, if you can compose yourself, you can say, wow, you must be really freaking out because holy cow, this is your big event and you were waiting for me to respond. I didn't know about it. And so like, wow, you must be in a panic. And she was very resistant. The event coordinator was very resistant to take any ownership over the situation. So like when people come to us in a crisis, we don't have to solve the crisis or react. All we have to do is empathize. Wow, sounds like a pickle. So yesterday I get a text because I'm staying in Denver tonight. I'm flying out late tonight. And like, so the boiler broke in the hotel. We have to move you to another hotel. And we're really sorry. I'm like, wow, that sounds like a huge problem. Oh my goodness. You know, like, whoo, you probably had a day, haven't you? And like, yes, we have. Oh my God. Like already, like I am decreasing the emotional temperature of that person just by witnessing them. All right. So you're going to find like, this is like empathy and validation, like influence is like a super highway to getting people to just move with you. All right. Let me think. This is number 6. Oh, y'all, this is good. All right. So make your idea solve their problem. So, right. So number 6 is communicate with confidence. So again, 4, 5, and 6 are about how we share our influence and communicate our influence. 1, 2, 3 was about us, like us up leveling. So this is the last part, and I'm going to get into some really specific language. So this is the time where I do want you to like take pretty specific notes around this. So we want to communicate with confidence. So first of all, we want to make our idea or whatever we want solve someone else's problem. When I'm of value to you, you will be of value to me. So in the act of empathy and listening, I become valuable to someone and then they will be of value to me. In our world, it's like, okay, you meet my need and then I'll meet your need. There's a great series of books. You might have heard of it. It's called The Go-Giver Cells. The Go-Giver Cells, or one's called The Go-Giver, The Go-Giver Cells, The Go-Giver Influences. There's a whole series of books, all based on this one principle. If I'm of value to you, you will be of value to me. And I can give my gifts freely because I know when I'm of value to others, it will come back to me. And yes, they are wonderful books. And they're really easy to, please repeat number 4. That is listen. Number 4 is listen. Number 5 is empathy and validation. All right. So you are welcome. So my job is to be of value to you, so you'll be of value to me. And in our world, we're like, okay, you meet my need and then I'll meet your need. And it takes faith and trust in sort of the divine order of things to be of value to someone without receiving anything back. And yet this is like the best leaders I know, the best fundraisers I know, the best managers I know, when they are value to others, you will be of value to me. Okay. Let me just come back here really quick. Number 3 is release the outcome, right? Remember I talked about equanimity. I can work really hard to get the outcome I want and also be okay with whatever happens. Okay, now communicate with confidence. The I am, right? So I want to make my idea solve their problem. So for instance, I'm going to give you a story. One of the organizations I was coaching, one of the managers on their leadership team, she wanted to put a training program in place for her staff because her staff were fighting a lot. They're fighting a lot. And so she's like, okay. So she was asking her direct report, like, how do I get this direct report to want this training program? And I said, okay, but so you say, hey, let's I'm gonna put in this team building program, because we're like team, we're like, oh, team building. I was like, because no one wants team building, like this forced upon us, right? No one picks to be in a team building situation. So she says, and I said, okay, well, so let's think about what we know for sure is that listening works. So if you say to your direct report, hey, Maria, how are things going? Tell me what's going on. Tell me what are your challenges right now? So part of it was her direct report having to admit that things were wrong. So that's what that's why the trust and the listening and what I call building the sacred container is so important. It's like, whatever you say is okay. I really just want to tap in so I can support you best. Just tell me what challenges are going on. And it took a little bit, but she got to the point where she said, there's just a lot of fighting between the staff and I always don't know how to resolve it. And I spend all my time just mitigating these arguments. And so Jenny, the person, said, I have an idea for something that I'd love to tell you about. It's a training, and it's to help people communicate better. I think it would go a long way to solving the problem that you identified of a lot of this infighting. Is that something that you would maybe would consider? Okay. Yeah. And then they talked about it. So, but if Jenny would have come to Maria and said, hey, Maria, I see that there's a lot of fighting going on. I'm going to put in this program to solve that. She's going to hate it because she didn't pick it, because she got sold and she wants to buy. So we allowed her to buy into the concept of this team training program, which didn't have anything to do with me, by the way. And so like, and here's the risk, okay? Because I'm going to say, because would you consider having and so what we asked is not, would you consider this program, but could I share with you what this is and get your input? Like all she was asking and could I just share with you this concept and see what you think? Not like, hey, I'm going to share with you this concept. Do you want to do it or not? So, you know what I'm saying? It's like, all I'm asking her to do is have a conversation around what's happening, not to make a decision right then. And that's really important, because what was really important is that we tapped into the pain of the situation. So it's pains and gains. We tapped into the pain. So when I can tap into and I can solve, so I'm listening to that person and I'm thinking, what are their pains? What are their gains? What do they want to accomplish? What is keeping them from doing that? How is my idea or what I want going to help them? So when I'm with a donor, what are their gains? What is the legacy they want to leave? What are the pains? What are the struggles in their life? How can I help them and support them in those? And how can my gift or whatever I want, how can my organization, how can we work together to either create that legacy or solve a pain? So that's what I'm listening for. Okay. All right. So, now the last part is the language of I am. So this is where we have very specific language techniques. I want you to think about the language that you use, because our thoughts shape our words shape our reality. So if I say, there's some words that I want you to look at and work out of your language. One is trying. Stop saying trying. I'm trying to get my staff, or I'm trying to get my board. I am getting my board more engaged. I'm trying to raise $3 million. I'm raising $3 million. Right? We are. And so when we say we're trying to launch our annual campaign, we're launching our annual campaign. You feel the difference in that? That's a language I am. It's like, it's done. That's when Lynn was saying she's got the building, right? Like it's done. It's already happened. It's I am. And I know, and I know why sometimes, or for me, it's like, I'm saying I'm trying to, because what if I don't do it? And my subconscious is like, you, because ooh, this is scary. What if we don't get that? And then we'll be a liar. And also, but it's like, are you trying to, or are you doing it? And so using the language of I am, and I catch this all the time when I work with people, we're hoping to, we want to, we are, I am. So when we grab onto the language of I am, and the other thing I want to leave you with is, one of the word, I'm going to leave you with two things. One is the word just. I just need 15 minutes of your time. I need 15 minutes of your time. When just diminishes the thing, just stand in the request. And anytime, especially in an email, when you're typing an email and you type the word just, like, do I really need that word in here? Can I just say what I want and stand in the value of it without having to diminish my request so that I think you will accept it? So trying, hoping, you know, all those things that's weak, like it's weakening. So what happens is if you're questioning your ability to make it happen, how are people going to interpret that message? So you're subconsciously sabotaging what you want to have happen because you're putting it out there that we're trying or we're hoping to, instead of I am. Does that make sense? Like, Lynn, we are raising money for this building. It's just a matter of how, you know, it's like it's done. Is that okay? So we are. And so we have a few more minutes. Listen, I'll hang out here until I'm the only one left or till I got to go get my shot, whichever one happens first. So if you have more questions and things, I'm happy to stay on. Okay. We still have 38 people are hanging out with me. This is amazing. Okay. So, same language with intentions. Yes. Okay. I need to be better about that in emails. Yes, Andrea, you will catch that when you start writing, just like, I am, you can just look at your, like, am I in the present? All right. So those are the big things. I'm going to go back to my share real quick. What questions do you have for me or thoughts that aren't in the chat? I'd love to hear. Okay. Can trying to replace with working, e.g. I am working to engage my board, or I am working to raise $3 million. So my question back to you, Emily, would be like, what is the hesitation with just saying I am engaging my board, or we are raising? Because what I'm sensing is like there's something underlying there that's feeling a little like insecure about your ability to do it. So you need to use those qualifiers. So if like, because that to me is the same thing. Because if I read, I am engaging my board, right? I am working on, now, sometimes I say I'm working on something. Like, I'm working on this. And also I find that if I can rephrase that to say, like, I am engaging my board at a higher level, it feels like it's already happening. And so if I'm hesitating to feel like it's already happening, that means maybe I believe that it can't happen. So I'm just going to leave you with that. Okay. All right. So anyone who wants to, I invite you to like talk with me. Oh, sorry. One more thing that I did, the qualifiers, diminishers, and doubters. So the qualifiers, my apologies. The doubters. So the qualifiers are, so the diminishers are the trying, you know, and like the justs, and the doubters are the trying. The qualifiers, sorry, I forgot this, guys. The qualifiers are, I'm not sure if this is right. And then you say what you want to say, or I don't know if this is really what you're looking for. No one really did that here today, but a lot of times when people ask questions, or like you're in a meeting and you're saying, I don't know if this is the right thing, but, and then you say what you really want. And so if you're not confident in what you're saying, no one else is going to be either. So I teach people, like, you got to remove those qualifiers from your mind, from you, and just stand in the value of your voice. And especially women, like, because we were taught to like play nice, and, you know, so, and like, God, I say stuff in meetings and no one really listens, but then somebody else says it, and people are like, oh, what a great idea. I'm guessing it may have been prepped by a qualifier. I'm guessing. All right. So what'd you say? My big issue is saying into the ask is as Black woman, I facilitate between pushy and accommodating. I got you. Yes, I can help you with that. Absolutely. What I would like to do is, you have a little bonus here. If somebody says to you, let me think about it and get back to you, that is the death to any arrangement. So I use a technique called ice picking, where like an ice pick, you move up the ladder like this, right? So you're not going to go up the mountain without putting this one in first. Say, that sounds great. Why don't we put a time on the calendar now to have that follow-up conversation, so you can think about it, and we don't have to go back and forth. Because I'm going to guarantee you, when somebody says they think about it and get back to you, they never do either of those things. And a lot of times in fundraising, we feel like the donor has the power, the donor has the money. Okay, they'll think about it and get back to me. And also standing in the power of your process, saying, of course, I want you to think about it. Absolutely. Let's put a time on the calendar now to have that follow-up conversation. And then if they hesitate, then they probably are trying to get out of it. All right. So the last thing I want to share with you is, if you're like, this is awesome, I want more, and I really want to talk with Maryanne about specifically some issues in my organization, how I can solve that, I invite you to book a call with me. I book 12 when I do these things with the community foundation. So if you're like, I love this, go to connectwithmaryanne.com, and we'll have a conversation specifically around who you need to influence and help you make a plan to do that. You can, and I will give you, like, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what I teach and train. So I can give you some really specific input and guidelines into what you can accomplish. So if they hesitate and they are trying to get out of it, do you just let it go and come back later? So I asked them about their hesitation. It seems like you're hesitating. Right. And so, like, let's talk about that. That's called like the listening, and what I call speaking the unspoken. So if this isn't right for you, that's okay. If it is, that's okay too. Either way, I want to do what's right for you, and whatever you decide is okay. Give them that out. So if you like what you hear and you want more, I'm also happy to stay after a little bit. And I would love to connect with any of you who are like, this is amazing. And like Marcia and all these, and Christy knows, like, the value of these calls is super, super high. I live in alignment. I'm not selling you anything. I'm really just receiving you and helping you move forward. Because when I'm value of you, you're a value to me. I eat my own cooking. Okay. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? You guys, I'm like pretty impressed with my timing here. Any other questions or thoughts that you have? Or just want to give me a little love, I would accept that too. All right, please book that call with me, guys. I would love to talk with you more. I'm so excited to help you and to meet with you individually if you so desire. It's going to be a great experience. And if anybody has any more questions, I'll hang out if anybody has anything else they want to ask. And Lynn and Satanya, I would love for you to book a call, because I can really help you and answer some of those questions. Yes, and thank you to our interpreters.
Maryanne, thank you. I cannot get to my chat thing, but I really have appreciated this, and I will try to connect with you. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye everybody. It was wonderful.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.